RESTO Shaman is one of the best and most fun to play healers in the game, and the sheer variety that you have by playing this spec warrants this video alone. So today we will be going into the basics of Restoration Shaman, talents, rotation, gear, everything that you need to start raiding and going into Mythic Plus dungeons right now. This video will cover more of the general things about Restoration Shaman, so I won't be discussing the DPS version of it. But if you do want to know how to DPS and how to become probably one of the best DPS healers in the game, then hit us up in the comment section below and let us know, because that needs a video all on its own. For the talents I would be recommending, I will talk about one main build in particular, one that has essentially put shamans back on the map in terms of healing. There are alterations and all in all different builds that you can try, but you will probably be better off starting with this one when it comes to raiding. First row, Unleash Life. This bad boy will be one of the few instant heals that we have, which is always very appreciated. It will of course buff the next direct heal that we cast by 35%, which will synergize very well with this build. Second row, Echo of the Elements, is the go-to. It gives us 2 charges of some of our most important spells. What's more, it complements our AoE healing throughput, which is what we need most of the time. Third row is a utility row, and although you can pick and choose what you like, I would recommend Spirit Wolf. It gives you mobility, it gives you damage reduction, and if you have the Pack Spirit as a right trait, it will also heal you. If you're alive, you can keep your group alive as well. Fourth row. This is a really cool row because all options are viable, however they have specific scenarios they excel in, and those scenarios happen all the time. For this build, pick Earthen Wall Totem. But remember, what makes Resto Shamans so good and mandatory in Mythic raiding guilds is actually the Ancestral Protection Totem. This one needs to be communicated. Your guild needs to run strategy so you can take advantage of this, and if they do, and you use it properly, you will be loved, my friend. Level 75 talents. Pick Nature's Guardian. It's not the only viable one, but as you get comfortable with the spec, you want to have as much survivability as you can, which this talent will provide. You can steadily switch to Graceful Spirit that buffs Spirit Walker's Grace, and you can cast while moving more often throughout a fight. Level 90, get Cloudburst Totem. This is one of my favorite talents and spells to use as restoration. You change your mentality completely while playing this, and you transform a mediocre spell into a HPS cooldown. It works well with Unleash Life, it works well with the next talent on the row, and it will boost your AoE healing by a ton. Last row, pick High Tide. Here there's a choice between Ascendant and High Tide, but since the synergy between Ascendant and Spouting Spirits has been taken away, it won't be as strong of a choice as before. High Tide is what complements this build, making chain healing a major part of the playstyle. Buffing chain heals with Unleash Life is amazing, and if you do all of this within Cloudburst Totem, then yeah, it all connects. For dungeons, not a lot will change. On the first row, Undulation will make your life easier, but you can still consider Unleash Life as an option, which I would still recommend. For the second row, keep Echo of the Elements. To increase the speed at which you finish the dungeon, you essentially need to increase the uptime of your strong heals like Riptide and Cloudburst Totem. Third row, consider taking Earth Grab if you're doing higher keys. This way you can help your tanks kite more efficiently. Level 60, Earthen Wall will most likely outperform the rest and gives you more on-demand damage reduction. Level 75, consider leaning into Graceful Spirit more. Nature's Guardian is still good, but there's a lot more freaking movement necessary in dungeons, and Graceful Spirit helps you with that. For the level 90 row, keep Cloudburst. For the last row, I will have to recommend you take whichever you feel helps you more. High Tide is always good, and if you still go with Unleash Life, your chain heals will pretty much top your party. Or at least take them out of the danger zone. Danger zone! If you feel like you need strong burst healing every few minutes, Ascendance will be your better choice as a oh shit button. With the new iteration, Ascendants will also pop an instant heal on your party that could help with unforeseen pulls. When it comes to stats, it's not something that you can properly sim, since simming measures damage output and not healing. To get a better feel for the stats, you would need to test it out for yourself. What you should take into consideration is that intellect is the best stat, so always choose eye level over anything else. The next most important stat is critical strike, since critting on a heal will refund some mana. Mana is very important when healing, and properly managing it will set you apart from your peers. After crit, versatility is the one you should focus on. Versatility is an overall good stat, and since Resto Shamans are versatile in nature, we can deal damage, we can heal, we can take more damage since we wear a shield, so it complements the class as a whole. Mastery and haste are usually the least important stats to pick, but that doesn't mean that they are useless. Keep these stats in mind both for raiding and Mythic Plus, and if you're always picking the highest eye level, you'll most likely never go wrong. In terms of trinkets, luckily you won't have to choose between different ones for raiding and again for dungeons. There are two main trinkets you should aim for in terms of best in slot. The definitive one, at least for this raid tier, is the Eternal Alchemist Stone made out of alchemy. This one would require a bit of dedication. Either you make it yourself or you buy it from the auction house. Either way, once you do, you're set. The other one is the Conch of Dark Whispers, a trinket that drops from the Shrine of the Storm dungeon with a big crit proc on it. The higher the eye level you have for this, the better for you. These two are the main trinkets you can use, but of course not the only ones. You can essentially pick any trinket with either an intellect proc or a crit proc to aim for and farm. Lastly, let's look at the Azerite traits. As I've said, the build we are focusing on today is purely the healing build. The trait Igneous Potential, which is amazing for elemental shamans, is also available for Resto, and with it, Resto shamans have become crucial when it comes to healers that can provide very large DPS outputs. However, restricting ourselves to only healing, there are a few traits that stand out. For raiding, Spouting Spirits is currently the most used one and really the most efficient one. This trait essentially stacks to add a decent amount of healing that procs just before the Spirit Link totem drops. And considering this affects all raid members, so say 20 people, the added healing will really make a difference. Not to mention that the AoE radius of it is increased to not only permit more people to be tapped by the totem, but giving them more freedom when space to move in is a commodity. The other two traits that you can consider aiming for are Overflowing Shores and Treacherous Covenant. Overflowing Shores aims to address the same thing as Spouting Spirits. AoE healing with an instant on-demand AoE heal. Treacherous Covenant is a very straightforward trait, a boost to intellect which is our main stat to begin with. For dungeons, Turn of the Tide edges a bit ahead of everything else, and depending on how your group decides to tackle the content, you can opt for this one. You can otherwise keep Spouting Spirits, or if you're running the Chain Heal build, pick Soothing Waters to provide more power to your chain heals. Either way, once you have one of these three traits stacked, aim for the same as before. Overflowing Shores and Treacherous Covenant in your, let's say, empty slots. Really quick before we go into the rotation of this spec, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We do streams, class guides, WoW news shows, and we pretty much announce all of it on our social media. Also, if you like our content and want to support us more, not required but very appreciated, we have a Patreon page as well. Thank you very much for being with us, guys. We wouldn't be here without you. When it comes to the rotation, no healer has an actual rotation because everything you do is either reactionary or preemptively. That means that you either react to the damage your group is taking and proceeding with the best course of action to heal it, or you premeditate what damage is about to come and prepare accordingly. As a healer, Resto Shaman is more reactive when it comes to our toolkit. Our mastery alone should tell you that the most efficient target to heal is the one with less HP, meaning the target already took the damage. The general priority and what you should think about when healing a raid is as follows. You want to keep Riptide on cooldown with a priority on the active tank. Try to use Cloudburst Totem on cooldown as much as possible. With Echo of the Elements, this should be even easier to do. Remember that you can press the totem again to proc its stored healing if you want to save a low health ally, or if you think that it will overheal by the time it will reach its end duration. Use Unleash Life on cooldown. The best healing to buff is Chain Heal followed by Riptide. Make sure Healing Rain is placed under as many friendlies as possible, either the melee group or the ranged if the range are stacked. Same thing with Earthen Wall. Use Chain Heal when AoE healing is needed. Spend your Tidal Waves charges, use them on Healing Surge when emergency healing is required, or Healing Wave when you can afford being efficient. Fill in with Healing Wave when there isn't a danger to your group. When you expect certain members of your group to die, use Spirit Link Totem ideally to mitigate the damage your group is about to take. This would be a preemptive play. Otherwise, use Healing Totem to bring your raid back up. If there is really no healing needed, cast Flame Shock on targets, consume Lava Surges with Lava Bursts and fill in with Lightning Bolts. Only do this to prevent not casting anything. Your role is to keep people alive, not to deal damage. Not with this build anyway. For dungeons, the situation is a bit more simple since you will be focusing more on single target healing, and the main aspect that should be on your mind is a balance between keeping your group alive and not wasting mana. As such, try to cast Healing Surge when things get dicey and Healing Wave to preserve mana. Try to pair these up with Riptide as much as possible to be more efficient with your mana. Keep in mind that the High Tide buff lasts for 25 seconds and has 2 charges. Try to delay it if you don't need it. Chain Heal is still mana intensive, but when you get the full benefit out of it, then it can act as a healing cooldown. Every consumable you will want to get should give you crit. Crit for rings and weapons as enchants. Crit for gems, although keep one as intellect. Get the intellect flask and battle potion if you know you can use it. Always have a coastal mana potion and even potion of replenishment if you can take advantage of those 10 seconds of no healing needed. As for food, feast will always be the best of course, but if you cannot get any, use the highest crit food you can find. If you want to play one of the best DPS specs in the game at the moment, check our Elemental Shaman guide. Yep, there's 2 of them because there's 2 viable specs to play for elementals. Go check it right now so you can hop into raids and Mythic Plus dungeons in a couple of minutes. Thanks for watching the video, see you next time.